You wake up before sunrise in a small wooden room on the edge of town. For a moment, you lie still beneath the thin blanket, staring up at the dark wooden ceiling above you. The air inside the room is cold, and it carries the faint smell of smoke, dried herbs, and old wood. For a few seconds, your mind drifts somewhere else. You imagine you are somewhere quieter, somewhere safer. A place where mornings begin with merchants opening their stalls and farmers guiding carts through busy streets. A place where the church bells ring for weddings instead of funerals. But the sound of distant coughing from outside the window pulls you back to reality. The plague has come to your town. And today, like every day now, you are the doctor who must face it. You slowly sit up and swing your feet down to the cold stone floor. The room is small and simple, barely more than a bed, a wooden table, and a narrow window that looks out toward the silent street. Your eyes move toward the table beside the bed. The mask is waiting there. Long, dark, and shaped like the beak of a bird. Beside it sit leather gloves, a heavy coat, and a small collection of herbs and dried flowers that you will soon place inside the mask's long beak. People believe the herbs will protect you from the sickness that spreads through the air. Lavender, mint, rosemary. The smell is strong enough to fill the mask completely. Whether it truly protects you, no one really knows. Because the truth is simple. No one understands this disease. Not the priests who say the plague is punishment from God. Not the healers who mix strange medicines in clay bowls. And not even the doctors who wear masks like yours and walk through the streets trying to help the dying. You stand slowly and begin preparing for the day. First, the long coat. The heavy fabric folds past your knees, covering most of your body. Then the gloves, thick leather that protects your hands from touching infected skin. Finally, you lift the mask from the table. The moment you place it over your face, the world becomes quieter. Your breathing echoes inside the hollow beak. Through the round glass lenses, your vision narrows slightly, and your reflection in the small metal mirror beside the table barely looks human anymore. You look like something else entirely, a strange blackbird walking among the sick. Outside, the town remains silent. A thin grey light begins to creep across the street as morning slowly arrives, but the usual sounds of life are missing. No merchants calling out to customers. No carts rolling across the stone road. Just silence. Then suddenly the church bell rings. Once, then again. The heavy sound echoes across the rooftops of the town. Another death. You already know what that means. Somewhere nearby another family has lost someone to the plague. You finish fastening the coat and reach for the leather bag that carries your medical tools. Inside are small knives, cloth bandages, glass bottles of herbs, and handwritten notes describing symptoms you have seen again and again over the past weeks. Fever, coughing, black swelling beneath the skin. Every day the same signs appear, and every day more people fall sick. You move toward the door and pause for a moment before opening it. The cold morning air rushes inside the room. Somewhere down the street, another door closes quickly as someone notices your mask through the window. People no longer look at doctors the way they once did. Now when they see you walking through the streets, they do not feel relief. They feel fear. Because if the plague doctor is coming, it usually means someone nearby is about to die. You step outside and close the door behind you. The street stretches quietly ahead, lined with wooden houses and shuttered windows. And somewhere in this silent town, someone is waiting for you. The streets are colder than usual this morning. As you begin walking through the narrow road that leads toward the center of town, your boots echo softly against the cobblestones. Normally, this street would already be busy by this hour. Bakers preparing bread, farmers arriving with carts of vegetables, children running between the houses. Now the street is nearly empty. Most of the wooden shutters are closed tightly, and the few windows that remain open reveal only cautious eyes watching from the shadows inside. People notice you immediately. It is impossible not to. The long black coat, the gloves, the mask with the long beak. A child standing behind a window stares at you as you pass. His mother quickly pulls him away and closes the shutters. To them, you do not look like a doctor. You look like a warning, but you continue walking. Soon you reach the house you were called to visit. Even before you reach the door, you can see the sign. A piece of cloth tied to the wooden handle. It hangs there like a quiet message to the rest of the street. Sickness lives here. You stop in front of the door and listen for a moment. Inside the house you hear movement, then coughing. Slow, heavy coughing that echoes through the thin wooden walls. You raise your gloved hand and knock. For several seconds, nothing happens. Then the door opens slowly. A woman stands in the doorway, her face pale and exhausted. Dark circles rest beneath her eyes as if she has not slept in days. When she sees the mask, her shoulders drop slightly. She steps aside without saying a word. You enter the house. Inside, the air feels thick and warm, carrying the smell of sickness and damp cloth. A small fire burns weakly in the corner, but it does little to warm the room. The coughing comes again, this time louder. You follow the sound toward the back room. There, on a narrow wooden bed, lies the patient. A man in his 30s, perhaps. His breathing is uneven, and sweat covers his forehead despite the cold morning outside. You kneel beside the bed and carefully lift the edge of the blanket. The signs appear immediately. Dark swelling beneath the skin. Large black marks spreading across the neck and chest. You have seen this before. Too many times. The woman behind you begins to speak quietly, her voice shaking. She says the fever began 2 days ago. Yesterday he could still stand. Today he can barely breathe. You listen carefully, writing small notes into the worn pages of your book. But deep down you already know the truth. This illness rarely leaves anyone alive. You stand slowly and look around the small room. A wooden chair. A table with a half-empty bowl of water. And the quiet fear of a family waiting for an answer they already suspect. Outside the window, the town remains silent. And you realize something that has become more clear with every passing day. This will not be the last house you visit today. By midday, the town begins to change. The quiet streets you walked through earlier no longer feel calm. Instead, there is a tension in the air that spreads through every corner of the town. People move quickly now, speaking in low voices when they pass each other in the streets. Rumors travel faster than carts. Someone says 3 families on the north side of town are already sick. Another says the sickness has reached the marketplace. Others claim the disease spreads through the air itself, carried by the wind that moves through the narrow streets. No one truly knows the truth, but fear spreads just as quickly as the sickness. As you leave the first house, you notice more doors marked with cloth. Some houses have the same warning tied to their handles. Others have small symbols scratched into the wood by frightened families trying to warn others to stay away. The signs are everywhere now. You continue walking through the town, with your leather bag hanging from your shoulder. A cart slowly rolls past you, pushed by 2 men whose faces are covered with cloth. Inside the cart lie 2 figures wrapped in blankets. One of them moves slightly. The other does not. The men avoid looking at you as they pass. Further down the road, a group of villagers stands near the church. Their voices are tense, arguing about what should be done. Some demand that the town gates be closed to outsiders. Others say travelers already carried the sickness here weeks ago. A priest stands on the church steps, speaking loudly to the crowd. He raises a wooden cross and calls for prayer, warning that the plague may be punishment for the sins of the town. Some people fall to their knees. Others simply watch in silence. Not far from the church, the graveyard has already begun to grow. Fresh piles of dirt sit beside newly dug graves. 2 men work quickly with shovels, digging deeper into the cold ground. Their movements are tired but urgent, as if they know many more graves will soon be needed. You stop for a moment and watch them. Only a few weeks ago, this place was quiet. Now it is one of the busiest places in town. The church bell rings again. The sound echoes across the rooftops, slow and heavy. Another death. You continue moving through the town, visiting house after house. In one home you find a young boy burning with fever. In another you find an old woman who can barely breathe. In another, an entire family sits together in fear, waiting to see which of them will fall sick next. Each door reveals a new story. Each room carries the same smell of sickness. And with every patient you see, a terrible thought grows stronger in your mind. This plague is not slowing down. If anything, it is only beginning. As the afternoon light begins to fade, the number of sick continues to grow. More families send messengers through the streets searching for help. And everywhere you go, the same look appears in people's eyes. The look of someone who knows the world around them is changing and may never return to what it once was. As the sun begins to fall behind the rooftops, the town slowly grows quiet again. The same streets that were tense and restless during the afternoon now return to silence. Smoke rises slowly from a few chimneys as families gather inside their homes, hoping that the sickness has not yet reached their doors. You continue walking through the fading light, your steps slower now than they were that morning. The long coat feels heavier after a full day of visiting houses filled with fear and sickness. Your gloves smell faintly of herbs and smoke, and inside the mask your breath has grown warm and stale. The town looks different at dusk. Not empty exactly, but cautious. Behind the shutters, people wait. Some whisper prayers. Others sit quietly beside sick relatives, hoping the fever will break before morning. You pass the church once again. The bells are silent now, but everyone knows they will ring again tomorrow. You turn down the narrow street that leads back to your small room on the edge of town. The last light of the evening stretches long shadows across the cobblestones. In the distance, a cart moves slowly toward the graveyard. Even without looking closely, you already know what it carries. Another life lost to the plague. You finally reach the door of your room and step inside. The quiet inside feels different now than it did that morning. Then, the day was only beginning. Now it feels as if weeks have passed. You remove the gloves first, placing them carefully on the wooden table. Then you lift the mask from your face. Cool air fills your lungs as you take your first clear breath in hours. The herbs inside the beak have begun to lose their smell. Lavender, mint, rosemary. You wonder if they ever truly helped at all. For a moment you sit beside the table in silence, thinking about the people you saw today. The man struggling to breathe, the frightened mother standing in the doorway, the child watching you from behind the window. Each face stays in your mind longer than you expect. Outside, night settles over the town. Somewhere far away a dog barks. A door closes. Then the streets fall quiet again. You know what tomorrow will bring. More doors, more sickness, more families waiting for answers that no doctor can truly give. The plague does not rest, and neither can you. You lie down on the narrow bed and stare once more at the wooden ceiling above you. Tomorrow you will wake before sunrise again. Tomorrow you will walk through the same silent streets. Tomorrow you will knock on more doors. And tomorrow, somewhere in the town, someone will be waiting for the plague doctor.